Hello and greetings, and welcome to the Water Justice Confluence. I'm really happy to see you all here today. Just so everyone is aware, as I've said before, we are recording the events tonight. So please turn off your video if you don't want to be pictured. And this evening's confluence will also be live streamed on Facebook in case you want to share it with your friends. My name is Kathy High, and I am a co-founder of the Sanctuary for Independent Media, also known as Media Sanctuary. And I've been a member of the board of directors since its inception 15 years ago. For those of you who are not familiar with Media Sanctuary, we are a nonprofit community organization based in North Central Troy, New York, just across the Hudson River from Albany. We operate a block-wide campus of activities. And if we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, we would be sitting in the Sanctuary for Independent Media, our headquarters that doubles as a telecommunications facility and performance venue, where we host speakers, independent film screenings, and live music. It's also home to 2 recording studios for our community radio station, WOOC 105.3 FM. We host a volunteer-driven nightly news and public affairs show called the Hudson Mohawk Magazine. We also run a variety of youth programs, operate Collard City Growers, our urban gardens, and bring all of our activities out into Freedom Square, our outdoors performance venue. We also have another program at Media Sanctuary called Nature Lab. And I am the project coordinator of Nature Lab, which stands for North Troy Art, Technology, and Urban Research in Ecology. This upcoming spring, we're thrilled to be opening the doors to our newest building on the block, the Nature Lab Urban Environmental Education Center. This new space will seek to empower the public with grassroots science and include programs such as the People's Health Sanctuary, focused on health empowerment and equity, a DIY community biology lab, where we will teach science literacy and science skills, and our new Water Justice Lab in collaboration with Riverkeeper. Our Water Justice Lab was just launched in the midst of the pandemic this past June in 2020. This 3-year collaboration between Riverkeeper and Media Sanctuary will establish a water quality sampling lab within the Nature Lab Environmental Education Center. The Water Justice Lab will educate diverse communities about water justice and how to protect our waters, develop the advocacy capacity of the North Troy area, and strengthen a network of environmental justice advocates focused on water issues around the Hudson River watershed. We have 3 wonderful water justice youth scientist fellows who have been participating in monthly sessions since June and who will be conducting water testing and water research along with radio production for the next 2 years. You'll be introduced to our Water Justice Fellows and their work later in the confluence. They're here tonight. This first year of the Water Justice Lab culminates with this virtual gathering of advocates from the Hudson River watershed communities and representatives of youth groups who, along with their mentors, will be leading discussions of environmental activism and justice, as well as possible future actions we can all partake in. I'd like to introduce the person who coordinated this Water Justice Confluence event, Amanda Cabanillas. Amanda has a deep commitment to grassroots organizations, environmental and water protection, and social and racial justice. We have only known Amanda for a few months, but she has pulled this event together beautifully in that time. She's currently working with the Watershed Conservation Team at the Housatonic Valley Association, managing conservation projects in the 10-mile river watershed. She is also teaching youth media workshops for Media Sanctuary's Hudson Mohawk Radio. So Amanda will be our brilliant guide through the Water Justice Confluence events tonight and tomorrow afternoon. And I'd like to thank Amanda for all her outstanding work coordinating this event, and also to thank the amazing people at Riverkeeper and Media Sanctuary, without whom this event would not have been possible. Amanda, let me pass it off to you now, and thank you all for your attention and for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you all for being here this evening. As Kathy just mentioned, in addition to the work that I've been doing for the sanctuary, I also work for the Housatonic Valley Association, where I'm currently leading the development of a community-based watershed management plan for the 10-mile river watershed, which sits just on the other side of the Hudson River Watershed, running along the New York-Connecticut border in Dutchess County. I also help lead an after-school club for the Ashokan Watershed Stream Management Program, where we teach Onteora Elementary School students about water science. It is called Watershed Detectives. I was connected to the Water Justice Lab through my volunteer work with Riverkeeper's Community Scientist Project. I have been one of the community scientists collecting water quality samples at a location on the Rondout Creek, not too far upstream of the Rondout Creek Hudson River confluence for 2 sampling seasons. It has been an absolute honor to be brought into this project, working with the Riverkeeper and Media Sanctuary team and taking time to research and connect with all of these individuals and organizations has just been so inspiring. It was through that research that we gathered our participating mentors and youth groups, most of which you will be meeting this evening. They are Genesis Cooper, Gabby Espada, and Shansonique Pollock of the Water Justice Lab, Jessica Alonso and Brianna Gray of the Kingston YMCA Farm Project, and Diana Akakal and Emperatriz Ojeda of Groundwork Hudson Valley's Green Team. Our environmental mentors are Sachem Hawkstorm, Hereditary Chief of the Schaghticoke people, and Heather Briegel, Director of the Stockbridge Muncie Community, Director of Cultural Affairs of the Stockbridge Muncie Community. Apologies. Our overall goal for the Water Justice Confluence is to amplify the voices of the youth and build alliances for water, environmental, and youth justice along the Hudson River and beyond. We'll be kicking things off this evening with a screening of the youth-filmed and produced Echoes from Lock 1, followed by a conversation with some of the youth mentors and film crew. At the end of the evening, we will open the space up to JOC and Shutezkat, our hip hop and Indigenous environmental activist guests. With all of that said, we ask that everybody remain muted throughout the evening. We encourage you all to participate in the conversations by dropping your questions into the chat. Our conversation moderators will ask you to unmute individually if needed. Now, without further ado, I would like to bring in Heather Briegel, who will be delivering our land acknowledgement. Heather is a member of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin and first-line descendant Stockbridge Muncie. She is a graduate of Madonna University in Michigan and holds a Bachelor of Arts and Master of Arts in U.S. History. Inspired by a trip to Wounded Knee, South Dakota, a passion for Native American history was born. She has spoken for numerous universities and events, including Indigenous Peoples Day in 2017, the Women's March Anniversary in Lansing, Michigan in January 2018, and the first ever Indigenous Peoples March in Washington, D.C. in January of 2019. She has become the accidental activist and speaks to different groups about intergenerational racism and trauma and helps to bring awareness to our environment, the fight for clean water, and other issues in the Native community. While Heather calls Michigan home, she has recently moved to Wisconsin, driven by her curiosity of her own heritage, and is now Director of Cultural Affairs for the Stockbridge Muncie community. In addition to that, she also travels and speaks on Native American history, including policy and activism. Thank you so much for being here, Heather. I turn it to you.
you so much, Amanda and Branda and everyone part of the sanctuary. I'm super stoked to be here tonight. I'm really excited for you to see what these kiddos have done. They've done some amazing work. I had a chance to speak with them earlier this week and was blown away, not only by the questions that they asked, but the curiosity that they had for the land and the water, and it was amazing. So I'm really honored to be here tonight to deliver a land acknowledgement. I'm going to deliver two. I'm going to deliver a land acknowledgement for the Troy, New York area, and then one for where I'm actually coming from to you. So first and foremost, I would like to acknowledge that I am in my home and I'm coming to you today from my home, which is located on the ancestral homelands of the Menominee people, who, through forced land cessions, now reside on a fraction of what their homelands once were. I honor their ancestors, past and present, by creating a space for learning that is inclusive and equitable for all. And then for the overall of this confluence, I would like to deliver a land acknowledgement. I'm very honored to be able to do this on behalf of my ancestors. It is with gratitude and humility that we acknowledge that we are learning, speaking, and gathering on the ancestral homelands of the Mexicano people, who are the indigenous peoples of this land. Despite tremendous hardship in being forced from there, today our community resides in Wisconsin and is known as the Stockbridge-Muncie community. We pay honor and respect to our ancestors, past and present, as we all commit to building a more inclusive and equitable space for all. I'm very honored to be delivering that land acknowledgement today, and I'm super excited for what's going to happen next and what you guys are going to see, and really looking forward to facilitating the questions later on. And so thank you to Amanda and to Branda and to the sanctuary in general for allowing me to do this today.
Heather, thank you so much for that land acknowledgement. That was really, both of them, they were really beautiful. And I'm just going to jump in and introduce our next speaker as we're kind of getting towards the film itself that we're going to show tonight. Megan Marone is going to be one of the people who will be introducing the film. So let me introduce Megan. Megan Marone is an artist, environmentalist, and educator. She's a founder of, let me get this one up, it's greater, yes. So she's a founder of a community art project, the Troy Palm Project, and an English teacher, adjunct professor in education. She's worked with several area students to create youth and physics segments for WOOC Radio, WOOC. She's also worked to build a shared storytelling community as a board member and education consultant for A Little Creative Class, Inc., a nonprofit that seeks to strengthen youth in the most economically vulnerable parts of New York State. Her personal work includes writing focused on the internal lives of everyday people, particularly femmes, as they navigate power structures in late capitalism and search for portals to spiritual freedom. Megan was one of the Media Sanctuary's Uptown Summer mentors in 2017, the year that Echoes from Lock 1 was filmed, the film you're going to see tonight. Megan will be introducing the youth participants for this introductory discussion of the film, and then they'll have a discussion after the film as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Megan, and I'll turn it all over to you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kathy, and thank you so much, Heather, for the land acknowledgement. And I try to tell my students about, the ancestral ties to this land and the processes of what has happened in history. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to just turn it over to the youth, and so I would like the youth filmmakers to just introduce themselves. So Angelo, we see that you're here. And we're hoping that you can unmute and just talk about your process in the film and everything that you technically did, and yeah, maybe some of the unexpected stories of doing this.
Okay. Hi. Sorry, I'm home right now and I have my little brother. I'm sure you all know how crazy the Zoom life is. It's nice to see so many familiar and unfamiliar faces. So I'm Angelo Domingo, and it was, I believe, winter of 2019. I did like the voiceover narration of the documentary. I wasn't actually like physically there for the summer that the sanctuary did the filming for the documentary, so it was kind of a journey for me too. I was kind of learning during the process. I was like learning how to one, do like voiceover narration, like edit, and at the same time learn like so many things about like Troy and Lansingburg that I didn't know about. So the documentary was like just as like informative as it was for me. It'll be the same for like for you guys, and I'm sure it'll be even different now with all the editing that's been done over the past few months. But it was a really cool experience because I feel like in school and growing up, you really don't learn a lot about your own community. You spend so much time learning about what has happened in the world, like a lot of other places. But Troy is just like so historical, and I had no idea like at all.
Thank you for that, Angelo. Yeah, and with your final comment, we're getting at the whole theme or motif of echoes throughout the film. Also, JOC, we see that you're on here, and we're hoping, I'm forgetting about Zoom angles too. JOC, we're hoping that you could just explain what you did with the students, if you're on and ready to go. Oh, and JOC is going to be performing later, but just to give everyone a sense of context within the film, you're going to hear a song, and JOC came in and led a whole songwriting workshop with the youth. And so he really gets the composition credit and the teaching credit for the main background song that you're going to hear within the film. Yay, hey.
There you go. Hello. So what was that you were asking again, just so I get the question all over?
Just if you could, go back in memory and talk to us about any anecdotes of working with the youth on the film.
Oh, it was just I appreciate Brenda for bringing me down for the opportunity to be able to work with them, and it was just to this moment, it was one of the greatest moments in my life to be able to teach and share and to build something so beautiful. And when we got there, we came up with the idea of putting a song together, and I didn't know how fast we would pick up on it or which direction it would go. And the kids are so talented, and they picked up on it so fast that we managed the whole song. They made a dance to it as well. And, so the kids are so talented. And then after that, we got to go, right down to the locks and, see it firsthand and do a little tour of it. And, with them being so involved and, to get so much information. And after the event was over, the kids were talking about it, and it sunk in and they valued it. And so to be able to see the little previews of the video, I can't wait to see the whole thing because they did an amazing job, and they're so talented and inspirational. So it was just an honor to work with them.
You were such an amazing teacher, not only of songwriting, but I really appreciated how much you just leveled with them, because there isn't a ton of room for emotional education in the schools. And I think that you just were so straightforward and helped them, even with stories of your own life. So should I hand it back over to Amanda?
And thank you very much as well. And thank you to the Sanctuary and Brenda and the youth.
Thank you.
He's asking for the performance.
Thank you, JOC.
So I think that we're probably going to be heading into viewing the film now, if that's what I'm understanding, which sounds like a lot of fun. And I just want to thank you all for being here, and thank you those of you who've spoken. It's really great to hear your stories. The film is going to be shown here on the Zoom. If you have any issues with it lagging, if it's stuttering in any way, we're going to drop the is it already there? We're going to drop the Zoom, the Vimeo link into the chat, and you could go and look at it outside of Zoom if it's going to be better for your computer's network and situation. We ask that you keep yourselves muted while you're watching the film so that we don't hear whatever background noise is going on for you all. And also, if you do go to the other link, the Vimeo link, then I think that what you should do is probably leave Zoom and come back in. Brandon and somebody else, Amanda, do you want to start back at 8 o'clock? Is that still the time that we want to keep? Okay, so we will probably have a little bit of a break after the film. The film is only 26 minutes, but it is jam-packed 26 minutes. And so you'll really enjoy it. Let me just go and get that link for you. Does somebody have the link? We got to put the link. Here we go. I've got it. And this is going into the chat. So if you just want to go to that Vimeo link instead of watching it here for whatever reason, just, probably you'll have to log off of Zoom so you don't hear it on this platform. You can listen to it on Vimeo and then log back on just before 8 o'clock. Anybody have any questions? Does that seem clear? Okay, then here we go. Here goes the film. Thanks all.
All right. Would anyone like to hear one more?
We are the sanctuary.
We are the youth, fighting for our future because we don't know the truth.
In a society filled with real love, trill love, all its irony, no escaping.
Constantly anticipating a new generation.
Ain't no waiting, we ready for a change. It's messing with our brains.
Messing with our brains.
Messing with our brains. Messing with our brains. Fighting for the Hudson, our water is important.
The corruption of our government is making us appreciate the values of our cities.
As the people, fight for believing.
These guys' mistakes increase their rate.
For justice, no more waiting. For justice, no more waiting. For justice, no more waiting. For justice, no more waiting.
We live along the shores of the Hudson River at the beginning of the Erie Canal, Lock 1, the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution.
The history of the Erie Canal and the devastating effects it has had on our community are mostly unknown, even to the people of Troy who live right next to it. Our river and our neighborhood have been poisoned by a legacy of pollution.
This is our call to action. For justice.
And for our future.
No more waiting.
No more waiting.
We learned that just feet from our door, a Mohican village named Unawat's Castle had a sacred burial ground. In the 1600s to mid-1700s, before the United States existed, the Stockbridge Munsee Mohicans were forced by increasing pressures of the Dutch and English colonists to leave their homes on the shores of the Hudson River, relocating from Troy to Massachusetts to Wisconsin. Mohican means people from the waters that are never still. This is their poem. You are one who walked yesterday, pulled from your place in time. And now I see that your feet once stood here, imprinting the earth where I stand, in moccasins I will never see, dancing, bending in the same sun, to a song I will never hear. The stories you would have told were silenced by other tongues, yet your blood is in mine, a link over time. I imagine your life from these feelings. Though I see you belonged undisturbed, covered with this dust we share. Now walk with those who are gone.
Calling the Troy Lock, requesting passage north.
This is where the Erie Canal starts.
General Electric used to have, they still have power plants on the river. They also did manufacturing, and as a byproduct, they created these things called PCBs. They're called polychlorinated biophenols, which are these artificial chemicals that ended up being spread all over kind of the sediment and then going into fish and then going into us.
So with these, we're going to test them on different types of medium, and we're going to check for antibiotic resistance. There's a lot of things going into the river, people not being very mindful of what they're doing with their antibiotics. So we just want to raise awareness for that. These guys are our citizen scientists that are doing that.
I think it's really important that we're doing this, and I think it's pretty cool to learn about everything, but I hope we get the message out there by doing it.
Little of the wealth from 19th century industrialization remains in our neighborhood in north central Troy. More than 50 potential brownfield sites are located in north central, including the Hudson River, contaminated with PCBs and other pollutants. 69% of children live in poverty here. We have an unemployment rate that is 30% higher than the national average. 1/3 of our residents did not complete high school. People even die earlier compared to richer communities around us. Lifespans in our neighborhood are 15 to 20 years shorter.
We was at my crib, like always on the steps. Ariana was there. We was always in the hallway, you know, like it was always little parties going on around there. We used to be playing manhunt late at night. And honestly, if you ever been to the Kings, the Heights, Phelan's, or any of them places, you played manhunt. You played manhunt.
It's summertime. There's no pools now.
Everybody would be here right now. Like
Facts.
it'll just be that time you waking up, getting ready to put your bathing suit on.
There's nothing to do outside. Basically, you just want to stay inside the house. That's it.
Yeah. Because there's like nothing to do out here. They ain't got nothing, no programs, no activities for the kids or everything to do. So all they do is get into trouble and whatnot. It's
Out
just,
nowadays, it's like we just sit home, probably on our phones or our devices, chilling in the AC, doing nothing. And then people gonna be driving by like, what are these kids doing around here? What are they doing? That's what we need more basketball courts around here. Like we need to put more buildings, like more.
Something about that building right there just screams basketball court.
Well, because they have some guy or under the freaking bridge.
Troy, you can easily fix the problems here. All you gotta do is build something for the kids to go to. Have more jobs available in Troy
for the younger, for the teens. You know what I'm saying? It's only
not just the summer youth program, like something throughout year round.
Year-round job. You feel me?
Because if you pay attention nowadays, everybody's trying to get a job. Everybody's trying to.
Everyone make their own money, and you see, look at having these kids work. They're not in the streets in trouble.
Like half the kids that stand over there is just because they can't get a job. They're looking, but they just.
Oh, look at this. Look at the pictures. Is that what we just went through? Is that the thingy?
My soul is more than
Sis, wait, is this the thingy? Is that the
yeah,
law?
that's the law.
It's the law we just went through.
So like show the picture and like look at students.
Look guys, this is, what is it called? The federal lock. Hell yeah. Wait, right there.
Put your face in it.
No,
Look on the side of you like this.
Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, lived in our neighborhood, along the shore of the Hudson River as a young man. His inspiration for the story is said to have come from sitting on his front porch and talking to sailors passing by. He was so inspired that he took to sea himself on a whaling ship, and then he came home to write about it.
For 360 miles through the entire breadth of the state of New York, flows a continual stream of Venetianly corrupt and often lawless life. A terror to the smiling innocence of the villages through which he floats. His swart visage and bold swagger are not unshunned in cities. To many thousands of our rural boys and young men born along its line, the probationary life of the Grand Canal furnishes the sole transition between quietly reaping in a Christian cornfield and recklessly plowing the waters of the most barbaric seas. We took a walking tour of Troy and plotted places on a map to research significant historical places and the Erie Canal's impact on our lives today.
Our mission statement is we recognize every face and every story. That was not always true when a lot of, not just us, but a lot of historical societies were really started to just document a certain class at a certain level, and frankly it was white men of a certain income. We are eliminating entire races, entire socioeconomic levels. We've eliminated women. So we've now spent the last 20 years really trying to pull that history back together, and that's not always easy.
Basically what we have to do and what we're gonna have to keep doing is calling people and just keep talking to people because they're the only resource that's really gonna be of any help to us. Yeah.
Paul Laurence Dunbar is regarded as one of the greatest African-American poets. Born in 1872 to freed slaves from Kentucky, as the only student of color in his high school, he became the class president and class poet. He tried to get a job writing, but because of his skin color, he had to take a job as an elevator operator in order to support his poetry writing, which received international acclaim. We broke down Dunbar's poem, We Wear the Mask, to see what it really means. The mask represents covering up the truth. The ecological destruction of the Hudson River is a story that is ignored or covered up by those with power. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us, while we wear the mask.
We wouldn't exist without water. Water makes up majority of this planet. Water's inside of us and every living organism on this planet.
JOC is a First Nations Mohawk hip-hop artist, activist, and performer. He came to the sanctuary to share his experience at Standing Rock, North Dakota. He helped us to create our own lyrics to tell our own story through song.
And then right next to the lyrics, what we're going to do is I want you to think of all the places we've been or places that you want to go, things that represent the lyrics that you see.
I had the opportunity to write one song at camp in my tent. And the song is about everything we're talking about right now.
And we're gonna show you how Mr. JOC performs. Let's drop it, Jamel. So I showed you the story about Standing Rock, right? All right, how did you feel when you guys watched that? Sad. We still have a reason to fight. We still have a reason to keep going. We still have a reason to protect each and every one of you, as well as this planet that we have to survive on. That's why water is life. Drop that, Jamel. So keep in mind that I wrote this at that camp, in the cold, with cops over the hill ready to shoot you and arrest you and take you away. Hey, sitting back at the camp like nighttime with them lamp lights. We're warriors, we been fighting. Front line with them flags fly. Put the wire around, taking that down. Prayerful action in the nighttime. Winter lightning in the background. No depot, no pipelines. This is all time, that 7th gen. Hate fire and it burns within. You can see it in the eyes that we see through the lies. We'll fight the corrupt to the end. I've been around, but this is it. Every moment right up to this. Every skill, every little gift. I finally feel what it's like to live, and I'm on it. Mother Earth is crying, we know that it's her time. We fight for all the children, put our lives up on the line. Protect the land, we must defend. Teach truth to all the youth. Our Mother Earth is crying, we know that it's her time. We fight for all the children, put our lives up on the line. Constant prayer every day. Always give thanks for everything, man. Thank these dancers right now. Let's get another round of applause for DJ Jamel on the ones and twos.
I've got a mule and her name is Sal. 15 years on the River Canal.
Unscrew, collect maybe as the waves coming in, and then screw.
And a good old
Everybody's
pal.
are labeled and dated, right?
15 years on the River Canal. We'd haul some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay. And we know every inch of the way from Albany to Buffalo.
Just took your samples, and what you're going to do is take them back, those samples, and you're going to put them onto some little petri dishes. We learned before that we could make all kinds of chemicals. We could make all kinds of paints, and we dumped them into this river. And we made a lot of money. I mean, you know, the United States really gained a lot of wealth in the world by basically dumping their waste away. Well, now we are dealing with the waste, and it's really important for young people to participate in a scientific effort to gather the information about what are the chemicals and the microbiological pollutants that threaten our health. How do we get the information to people that can make decisions about, we're going to clean this place up? No one else is going to do it. There's a lot of people out there that actually say they're scientists, and what they do is they get enough information to say, oh, we're going to ignore that. I call those ignorant people. Don't be ignorant.
The next one coming is the same medium, but this one has antibiotics on it. It has penicillin, okay, ampicillin and neomycin. Okay, so this is the big one. That was your control plate. Now this is the one that we're really going to want to check in a couple days to see if bacteria has spread.
Can you hold this, please?
This is the one with antibiotics, right? LBA. So look, there's bacteria growing in here, even though there's antibiotics. So this is why we're talking about bacteria in this way. Not just that there's antibiotic resistant bacteria, but that we're trying to understand all around us. We're part of the environment's part of us.
Thomas Cole was an American painter of the Hudson River School. He observed firsthand the rapid development of the Hudson River Valley during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, influencing his political philosophies on conservation of our natural areas. He was an environmental artist ahead of his time, bringing attention to what could be lost if we made decisions only based on money and industry. Although an enlightened and increasing people have broken in upon the solitude, and with activity and power wrought changes that seem magical. Yet, the most distinctive and perhaps the most impressive characteristic of American scenery is its wildness. It is the most distinctive because in civilized Europe, the primitive features of scenery have been long since destroyed or modified. Nature has spread for us a rich and delightful banquet. Shall we turn from it? We are still in Eden. The wall that shuts us out of the garden is our own ignorance and folly.
And it's like the environmental movement's only from the 70s, and look at how far we've come.
Brandon Balangi is a bioartist, bringing together art and biology with his environmental research. His work mainly consists of marine life and the conservation of the environment and its resources.
We're gonna just do some basic biological sampling, looking for different species of fish. We wanna take a cross-section of whatever's living there and bring it up so we can observe it and look at them, and then we'll hopefully catch a few things and then have to ask ourselves some questions about whether or not we release them or keep them. I mean, you live in proximity to the river, but that idea of knowing that there's all these migratory species that come up, and even though we know how polluted it is, it's probably cleaner than it's been in 100 years.
I think I got something. What? Reel it in, reel it in.
You know, so it's like a good reason to keep pushing to try to help conservation and try to make sure that water quality improves over time. Hopefully, I was thinking we could go down, do a little cleanup. Maybe it'll inspire people not to dump so much stuff in the first place. That's always what I think.
Everything we collected from Ingalls Ave.
Just leave it open. We're gonna do some scanning of specimens and also some sorting of like whatever garbage we collect.
Those are cool. Oh, those are beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this ancient Japanese tradition, which is fish printing with ink. Right? So this is an American eel, right? Conservation is only a field that's just really starting.
Like really sticky.
So it's really like a race between ideas and interests. So trying to hopefully get young people inspired about the life that's here and the life in other parts of the world, and realize that it's fantastic and hopefully worth fighting for.
It has to do with development.
Can you paint it? Yeah, let's kind of see. That's pretty beautiful, huh? Like lots of detail.
We learned that solar energy is the technology used to harness the power of the sun. Solar energy is a safe alternative to current fossil fuels like coal and gas and can help reduce pollution.
We're on a boat run by solar power. The deep rumble of the diesel engines, the smell, the danger from carbon monoxide, all of those things. Have you noticed those? Presumably not. This is Solar Sound northbound toward the Federal Lock. Over.
Hey, good morning. It's Tuck Marco. We'll be coming out of the Federal Lock here. Are you over on that east passage?
We are. We're out of your way.
Canal.
Whoa. I'm looking up the word. So when you stand up, you get a good breeze, though. I can't relate to it, but I mean,
See, the gates are closing behind us. You put us in the bathtub. Oh, you This sill is covered up, and it'll get more covered up. Push out the stern.
Vandana Shiva is one of the world's most famous and effective ecological advocates. She's an Indian scholar, physicist, and environmental activist who fights for the preservation of our land and our water. Water is nature's gift. We receive water freely from nature. Water is the source of life. Water connects all beings in all parts of the planet through the water cycle. Water is a commons. Water is limited and can be exhausted. No one has the right to overuse, abuse, waste, or pollute water systems. Water must be conserved. Everyone has a duty to conserve water and use water sustainably within ecological and just limits.
Jun Yasuda is a Japanese Buddhist nun and environmental activist who led us on a sacred water walk while chanting prayers for a peace-filled and brighter future for our earth. The purpose of the water walk was to share the importance of our water and to protest the installment of oil pipelines that leak and poison everything we need to live.
This is Indigenous Native American practice ceremony. So hold it, say a prayer, and offer it to the river. Please join in.
This song is now open for anybody to sing. It's a water blessing song.
Our planet suffering, we have to care about water. So we have to little bit sacrifice hot and cold and wet. Little bit sacrifice to pray for earth and water. What is the power of people to make a change? You know already.
for our future because we don't know the truth.
In this society, feel real love, trill love, all this irony, no escaping.
Constantly anticipating a new generation.
Ain't no waiting, we ready for a change. It's messing with our brains.
Messing with our brains.
Messing with our brains. Messing with our brains. Fighting for the Hudson, our water is important.
The corruption of our government is making us appreciate the values of our cities.
As the people, fight for believing.
These guys' mistakes increase the rate. For justice, no more waiting. For justice, no more waiting. For justice, no more waiting. For justice, no more waiting.
I was happy how our song actually, when it was put together, how it came out. Because we all worked together to make the song. Sadly, you see, there's nothing to do in Troy. When we wrote this, it felt like they gave us an opportunity to keep our mind off of something negative and put it into something positive. Yeah.
My name is Roseby, and basically in that video, we were talking about the things that go on in Troy, what we saw in our eyes, and how it should change at least.
I believe that it was very educational and important that we learned about the river and all that science stuff, because we didn't know how dirty or polluted it was until we tested the water in it.
My rose was helping look at the videos and take them apart and critiquing them. And my thorn is, other than today's the last day, I don't have one.
Why is she not?
That
Okay.
is that was really beautiful, just to say, Megan. I think you're gonna carry the conversation from here.
Yes. So Heather, we can start looking at questions. So if anyone wants to start writing questions in.
Yeah, if you have any questions about the film or for the kids, please put them in the chat and we will get them going and asking them. That was a great film, wasn't it? That was really good. That was in yours. Oh, someone's in tears. Oh, that's so good. That's good. Looks like we have a question coming in. It said, can the science fellows give us a recap of their year? So do any of our water justice fellows want to talk about, the process of filming this and things that they might have learned? If I could have all my water justice fellows come on camera, that would be great.
About the film that was just presented or the film that we made?
Yeah, the film that was just presented that we just watched.
Oh, well, we didn't make that one.
Yeah, we didn't do that one.
Those are
Oh, yeah, I just saw that. So the students who were part of the film, the crowd, your audience wants to know, about the process of making it.
Megan should answer that. Whoops.
Yeah,
sorry.
we have, I'm not sure if Angelo's still on, but so the process of making it, well, Branda was filming all the time, and as you could see, even in the credits, it was definitely a moving system of many parts and many people. So we definitely want to give JOC credit for the song and the writing, the really beautiful, very moving whole ending montage with the song is a result of a workshop that he did. And he worked really closely with Lauren and Ariana, who I wish both of those students could be here. But yeah, it was an entire summer, many people's input, and a few people I noticed you commented on the interdisciplinary approach of the entire learning process. But we tried to structure it around different lessons. So we had a lesson on We Wear the Mask, and then an artist named Jillian Hirsch came in and gave a really amazing presentation on Thomas Cole, and the way that through his paintings and his reflection, attempt to capture reflections of light on the Hudson River, he was trying to essentially get people to value, the whole Hudson River Valley, especially as people were developing. So yeah, I don't know if you want to jump in on that, Branda. I mean, there were so many people involved. There was David Borton, who created a solar boat, and then his trip on the solar boat with us allowed us to actually take passage through Lock 1. There was a lot of running around. I just remember a lot of running that summer. Running to catch up with June-san and to go on the peace walk. So I guess what's really cool too is just realizing that a lot of those moments truly unfolded organically. Like it happened to be that one week June-san was leading this peace walk through downtown Troy, and we coordinated to go down and to listen to her. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really huge, especially when it just organically happens like that. Is Angelo on with us? Is he able to talk about his? Okay. Somebody had a question about like your reaction to seeing the film, like as it's done. So like, what's your reaction watching it?
Well, with the way everything's been the past few months, sorry, my brother's like I'm kind of planning to put him to sleep, so
oh, you're
multitasking a little bit. So I'm just but it's. I mean, I felt it was like a year ago I did the work on this, and then this year I kind of really been like deprived of like what I usually do, because I do like performances and stuff. I did drama club at my school, so like I'm used to like making like work and like kind of being like artistic and stuff. So it's nice to like see something pay off this year, because it's been a really depriving year of like stuff like that, and I've also kind of gotten into like more activism and stuff this year. So it's nice to like see something for like, my own community like become finalized. I've been looking forward to this, so it's really nice.
That's huge. That's awesome. We had another question, was what inspired you to make this film and do the research? So I don't know if Megan or Angelo wants to take this one. What was the inspiration for doing this film and doing the research?
I think that well, one of the things I appreciate the most about life in general, I think, is people, I guess. I think like out of everything that I'm most proud of, I feel like I'm most proud of the bonds and relationships that I've made. I feel like if I take away all of that, then really everything that I've done kind of means nothing. And I feel like people, the people in your own community, you want to protect that. You want to protect the community that gave you the people that love and cherish you. So I think it's important to kind of give back and spread the word about things that are harming your community. Because I mean, of course, you want to protect it, and there's so many different ways to do it. And this is just one of the fun and creative ways to spread the word and make people aware of what's happening right here in our own town.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Do we have any of our other filmmakers on with us who might want to chime in here?
I was editing on this piece after it was shot. So I wasn't there the summer that it was made, but I came in afterwards, and I was an intern at the sanctuary in 2018, and Branda and I worked a lot together on a lot of the final post-production. So I could speak to that.
How did you feel about seeing the final product?
I feel really proud to just have been a part of it, because it wasn't originally like a film that was my project. I felt like a great privilege to be a part of finishing it because it was a huge endeavor. There was so many people involved and a lot of different voices to pull together and try to make sure that everybody's perspective was represented. So I feel really good about it.
Yeah, you should. It was a great film. We have a question, and I don't know if maybe Megan or Branda can talk to this one. It says, now that the film has premiered, amazing work, by the way, can it be shared publicly?
That's Branda.
You know, this is interesting because we shot this film 3 years ago. It's taken us a very long time to edit. It's been an act of love. And we do want you to share it. We're also hoping we can distribute it. And that if people have ideas of where we could distribute it, not only film festivals, but environmental organizations that are using media to carry on the environmental struggle against climate change and against environmental racism. So we welcome everyone in the audience to give us suggestions on how we can move forward using this film.
Yeah, well, I know we would love to have it here at Stockbridge Muncie to be able to show, because I know our community members here would love to see that there's some work going around to protecting the Mahicanatuck and keeping it safe. So that's a good one. So you can send it my way, Branda. It says, question for the young people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm assuming are young filmmakers. Yes, Branda.
I was going to say that Jamel is here, and he was our media maker. He's the media mentor and the music mentor, so he might be able to speak for the experience of the students too.
Yeah, absolutely. Please chime in anytime. And maybe even to this question, it said, question for young people. Can you see yourselves being activists for water justice in the future? Do you think making this film has changed your life? And if so, in what ways? And thank you for making this film. So any one of my filmmakers want to tackle that one?
Sure. I'm not necessarily one of the young people, but and I can.
That's okay.
Get
Chime
someone going.
in.
Hello, my name is Jamel. I was a media mentor. Yeah. Sorry, I'm outside right now. I'm at a friend's house and we're working on a project. Well, I want to say it's good to be here. Good to see everybody. Yeah, I connects people to our neighborhoods in a way that and connects people to the history of our neighborhood in a way that is just, and we really don't know the meaning of what it means to even be here and how rich it is to be here. And even the significance that it has to us, but then that it has to so many different people historically. It has definitely just awoken, like, or awakened something inside of me. Art, this knowledge, when do be able to open conversations with the intention of honoring the people who were here before us is like something that is just incredibly powerful. And to be able to see that through this project, I think it's just incredibly powerful. And it just opens you up spirit, So I'm just really happy to have been a part of this project and to help lead young media makers through just creating something really significant.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited that you did that work with them. I'm seeing some questions pop up, and I'm wondering, is this, and Megan, I don't know if maybe you have clarification or if we need to ask Branda, is it the environmental justice mentors and the youth answering questions?
I believe so. Well, anybody who wants to come in. So Angelo, it would be great. I don't know if we don't want to disturb you if you're still putting your brother to bed, but
yeah, I don't want to like stop you from doing what you need to do.
I'll just quickly comment on what Jamel said, though. It's just felt very appropriate that we're showing this at the end of 2020, because I'd be interested for what other people think about this, but just given what 2020 has been, just this kind of metaphor and motif of the echoes of things coming to the surface and the psychic resonances of trauma that hasn't been dealt with, and to have it dealt with in a beautiful way, and to kind of fuse activism with true vulnerability and looking at the truth. You know, I think that was one of the really valuable things about going with this whole idea of echoes. So I would love to hear more from Angelo, though. Is he still here?
Yeah, Angelo, did you want to comment?
I'm here.
Yeah, do you want to comment on any of that?
I'm sorry. What was he like half woke up?
Well, you know what? I didn't even really phrase it as a question, but I'll fuse the idea with something that Iris asked in the chat, which is, yeah, just this whole idea of echoes and echoes of the past coming back. And you said that you've been doing your own activist work now, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So Iris is wondering how you will continue to do activist work, or to use her phrasing, can you see yourselves being activists for water justice in the future? So commenting on, yeah, how you're planning on moving forward, and just this whole idea of bringing echoes to the surface.
Well, right now I am currently like applying like colleges and stuff. So like a part of what I'm looking for in colleges is like inclusive programs and stuff like that. Definitely with like other like LGBTQI plus people, or like African Americans and like Latinos. So I'm looking for like definitely programs like more like people like me and stuff like that. And I'm also I know I'm a part of the NYCLU. Melissa actually helped me. She introduced me to the program, and I got into like right now. I'm not restricting myself to any like one subject. I'm kind of just looking for like training in how to bring light to many different issues and how to properly go about it. I just want to like learn like kind of like professionally how to make sure I'm spreading the message correctly and not like enticing anyone to like antagonize me or anything. I just want to make sure like I learn how to spread the message and, you know, kind of learn. I think everything we've seen this year, we've seen how the country has definitely advanced in terms of like inclusiveness, but I think we've seen just how much we're not as far ahead as we thought we were. So I think like, you know, bringing a lot of light to like racism and stuff like that, and definitely with like environmental issues and climate change and all that, I think it's very important to learn how to bring awareness to those issues the right way, and kind of just like, because you have to, it's very easy to appeal to those who are already on your side, but it's harder to appeal to those who aren't. And I kind of feel like I want to learn how to talk to those who disagree with me, because truthfully, I struggle with that. And I really want to, overall, I just really want to learn how to bring light to all these issues, because I can talk about them and I can share them on social media, but there's still a lot I don't know. Like I'm not the perfect activist yet, and that's the goal I'm trying to reach now, is just to get better and make more awareness of things.
I think that's a great response, and please know that perfection is, don't stress yourself out trying to get to perfection. As long as you're out there and you're making your voice heard and you're bringing light to a cause, that's all we need you to do. So I'm going to open this question up to our youth filmmakers and our environmental justice mentors. Somebody wrote, there is such a clear and powerful link between the conditions of the river and the conditions of the community, and the fact that they both have been sacrificed by indifferent politicians and corporations. what local movements are pushing back, how can they be supported to build connections between environmental justice and economic justice. So if our youth or environmental justice mentors want to tackle that one, I know for the Stockbridge-Muncie, we there was the potential of a pipeline going through one of our sacred sites, which was Papskinny Island, and that pipeline has now been put on hold indefinitely. So we're really excited about that. But there was help from Branda and the sanctuary about putting together websites and making the issue known and getting community involvement, and that was really huge. So we were able to do that. And I believe we have another environmental justice mentor on with us right now. So if they would like to speak up, if they want to add anything to this, that would be really awesome.
Hello, everyone. That video was amazing, by the way. Thank you. I do want to just touch in with Angelo. I think one of the things that was mentioned was about trauma and how you're dealing with trauma and what resources you have to deal with trauma. Activism work brings on a lot of trauma, and take it from somebody that's been doing it for a very long time. There's intergenerational trauma, there's trauma that comes along with activism, and then there's people that know how to heal and deal with that. So if you are looking for some kind of guidance like that, let me know. I'd be glad to give you a hand.
Thank you.
No problem. Other things that we're doing, there's a piece of land in Troy that we're trying to protect right now. That's one of the last forested areas in Troy. Is a 10-acre parcel that they're trying to turn into apartments. And it's a Mohican mine that's well documented, that we're working with local organizers to try to get protected. As far as like working with water and talking about how we speak about water and language, and the language that the colonizers used to allow for these things to be poisoned. And so we have a lot of discussions about that, and I can't wait to talk more tomorrow about these things. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the youth and to just put a couple cents in on how we're looking at how we're fighting using their terms instead of ours. So that's what I can add for now. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you, Sachem Hawkstorm of Schaghticoke Nation. And I think you and I can both be in agreement that we love that the youth are coming forward and taking on this battle right along with us. So it gives us a much needed self-care break sometimes when the youth can take it up. We have a lot of questions still, so I'm going to start moving very quickly because I don't want to limit time. But for the youth, our youth filmmakers, so Angela and the of youth who want to come in, how did you become involved, and were you interested in water and the environment before this project?
Well, see, at first this wasn't really a big deal to me. It really kind of all started when I joined the sanctuary. I had no idea what I was getting into at all. It was crazy. And then I joined this job, and then I made a radio series in like some wards in Troy, and I got feedback from like actual people, and I did radio interviews. So I was doing all these things, and I just had no idea that I could do. So like I made a lot of relationships with people at the sanctuary, and I found myself like enjoying what I was doing. Like I honestly, most of the time I forgot that I was actually like working. So I started developing a passion for that stuff. And then like at my school, I'm like one of the only like people of color in my like drama club. So like I kind of became closer with like my identity as like a Black, gay, Puerto Rican like male. So that stuff like became more personal to me. And then with everything that's happened in the past year, and just seeing that there's so much like hate and like ignorance in the world, and then like knowing that like I have an interest and like confidence to like speak out against that stuff, it makes me feel like it interests me at the same time, but I also feel like, you know, I have the voice, so why not say something, you know?
Absolutely, totally agree with you. And also, in intermixed in the questions, you guys are getting a lot of compliments for your work. A lot of compliments. I
Thank
don't know if you
you.
can see the chat right now, but it's like, it's bananas. It's awesome. I think somebody asked, will the program be available? Yes, it is. It's being recorded and it's on Facebook Live, so you can always go back. There was a question for JOC. Is he with us right now? I want to make sure I get this question to him.
Hello.
Hi, yeah, so the question was, in what ways do you think that the medium of hip hop has allowed you to reach people that you would not otherwise be able to reach? That's a really good question.
Oh man, it actually opened might as well say the floodgates, and it did. It allowed me to not only, you know, reach outside of my inner circles, but to be able to have the opportunity to get, you know, into the entire world on a certain medium. And, you know, and that's why I spent so many years putting my personal story as well as, you know, what I've seen and these struggles out there and putting that into the hip hop. And, you know, to be able to put that on these platforms like YouTube and Spotify and stuff like that is just, you know, made it immensely greater for me to share my voice and, you know, the things that I believe in.
Awesome. Yeah, hip hop is a great medium. I'm from Detroit, so we got some good hip hop artists out there. So anytime that can be brought in, that's awesome. There was another question for our film crew, the youth, and or Megan. Someone would like to know how long it took to film and edit the piece. So basically the length of the whole process.
I was going to also invite Karina. Karina's on here. Yeah. Where is Karina? Essentially, it took a summer. I know Brenda and Karina and many other people started planning in the spring, in the winter. And yeah, Angelo, you did the post editing mostly, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So Karina, do you want to jump in on?
Hi, everyone. It's been a while, to say the least. It's nice to see everyone. Yeah, so I was lucky enough to join the sanctuary and all you guys.
Oh, I think you went back on mute, Karina. I think you went on mute.
Unmute. There we go.
There you go. Yep.
Still learning. And I think that was my main role, was to learn. Because I'm not from the area. So every day I was learning about the history of Troy, learning from the youth, learning from all of you guys, and kind of absorbing personally, but I also think it was my role to coordinate the day-to-day operations. So by learning from the youth, I felt it was really special to be able to be there daily and be present and learn from the youth and the mentors and kind of tie everything together. I was the learner, to say the least. So my role ended with that summer. So now it's really special to come back to that echo, Megan, like you were saying. I haven't forgotten, obviously, but it's kind of special how the ripples have continued even so many years later, and especially with such a interesting and difficult year for all of us. So it's still relevant, and I think that's the point. So thank you. Yeah, I'd love to hear from more of you guys. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks, Karina. We have another question for the youth. Angelo. Oh, you answered it in the chat. You were very into the arts, and then you were assigned to the sanctuary, it sounds like. The rest is history. That's what you're saying. So Angelo, do you want to elaborate on how people can
Yeah.
get involved, how other young people can get involved?
Well, for me, I did it through the Rensselaer County Summer Youth Employment Program. So I'm not sure if they're still doing that. And I'm pretty sure the sanctuary, I can't really speak on their behalf, but I'm pretty sure there's like opportunities and like a few maybe like 2 job listings that I heard about like not too long ago. So I think maybe like people who are like currently working there are probably better to speak on it than for me, but I'm pretty sure like if there's any other youth out there that you guys know of or anything, I'm sure like if they're interested in like any like activism stuff or like if they have any creativity at all, I would definitely recommend them for the sanctuary. I feel like that's a great place for youth to kind of like cultivate their passion for that stuff, because there really isn't like anything else kind of out here that does that. Like I don't think there's anywhere else in the world that's like the sanctuary for me, or at least out here.
Thanks, Angelo. And I think echoing what you said, and then also what Karina said about this year, it's just also going to be I don't want to say struggle moving forward, but the whole idea of community spaces is just going to become ever more important. And for people to feel authentically like they can go to certain places and feel welcomed and have their most vulnerable selves received. It's going to be really, really important in the future. Okay, Brenda, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the spiritual, bring your audio down, okay, Steve, about the kind of spiritual dimension of doing this work. And, we shot this 3 years ago. We've been working on it ever since. But it seems like every project we do plants a seed for further projects and for connecting and building networks. And so there's a really clear continuum from echoes from Lock 1, where we really first just started discovering the rich history of this river right there where we were, right? To the point of now collaborating with Riverkeeper and with our water justice fellows. So it's really like this growing energy of learning from the river, learning from the ancestors, connecting to the urban landscape, and and strategizing of all kinds of ways to bring together art, media, and science to heal the earth. So I don't know if anyone has any responses or ideas around that, but there's this real continuity between this film. We never knew when we did it that we now would be so honored to be working with the water justice crew who literally are living on this sacred land. So just want to thank everyone who participated in something that's bigger than every one of you, every one of us. It's really not the me, it's the we. And the youth visions that are expressed in this film, and also the youth visions of the water justice crew, who are really dynamite. And you're going to hear more tomorrow. They really, truly give us hope. Yeah. Rebecca, you have any insights as a Riverkeeper collaborator that you want to add? It's almost like the film keeps living now with Water Justice Crew, Water Justice Lab.
Well, I think what I could say tonight is how much we got done this year in the midst of COVID. We were able to launch this program with such a great collaborative crew in Troy, and we were really all throughout the watershed putting this together to work with the youth, and we were able to do some water testing. We were able to get the youth out on the boat, on the patrol boat with Captain Lipscomb. I'm really very grateful to be a part of the Water Justice Lab crew and we love Media Sanctuary. So it's a privilege, Brenda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. I don't see any other questions on my side. Megan, do you see any on yours?
I have a question for you, Heather. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
It's not a too on the spot one, but could you just, I just was wondering because I remember names are fleeing me, but that the Stockbridge, Muncie, Mohegan community, is it true that people still come to this area along the Hudson? That there's kind of a travel back and forth once a year from Wisconsin to this area of Troy to honor ancestral land?
Yeah, so we do make trips back to the homelands. There wasn't any trip that I know of last year, and of course this year there hasn't been any due to COVID. A lot of time, wait, no, I'm lying to you. There was a trip last year. I don't know what day it is ever. Like, to me it's still March, but that's okay. Yes, there was a trip back to the homelands last year. It was in the fall, I want to say early fall. And it was to Stockbridge, Massachusetts, which was part of our homelands. But yes, in general, people do make the pilgrimage from our reservation land in Wisconsin to the east to our homelands. And that's actually how our archive started, was making trips back to the homelands and bringing things back. But yeah, so we do still do that. You know, we make sure we raise the money so we can send people out there so they can experience that. And from the people that I have talked to who have been out there, it is, as Brenda said, it's a spiritual experience. You're walking on the land, you are listening to the water, you're listening to the wind, to the breeze, and you feel the ancestors all around you, which is kind of really cool. I've had experiences like that when I was out west at Wounded Knee. And I was supposed to come to the homelands in March, right before everything just went kaplooey. So I was very much looking forward to coming, and now I'm hopefully coming next year, fingers crossed. But yes, there is, you know, every year we try to send as many of our elders, especially out there, that we can, but then also the younger generation who's coming up, and we're like, you know, this is where we're from, this is where you need to, you know, go and learn the history of the land. So yeah, we do still send people out there. That was a good question. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to have that connection with that land out there. Because it's, you know, it's where our ancestors, I tell people all the time, it's where our ancestors lived, loved, and died. They're still there. And so with the revitalization of our Mohican language too, being able to go out there and speak those words on that land is just all the more powerful. So it's really cool. But yeah, so I just, I really appreciate that question, and I really appreciate being able to share, you know, a little bit of history right there for you. I don't see any other questions. So I want to thank the youth who made the film, and our other environmental justice mentor, Sachem Hawkstorm, for joining in, and for Megan for helping me to facilitate. And I'm going to turn this back over to Amanda.
Thank you, Heather. Yes, so this is definitely, this ends our screening and discussion portion of the evening. I thank you, Heather and Megan and Sachem, for speaking to all of these questions that came up, and this topic in general, and the youth for being involved. Tomorrow, we're all going to dive deeper into this conversation. We're going to have we're going to hear from our mentors and our youth groups, and we're going to break up into these breakout groups where we're going to come up with some pretty solid action items, and hopefully work toward building some concrete alliances throughout the Hudson River watershed. So be sure to tune back in tomorrow. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to open up the space to JOC and Shuteskat, and yes, I will let Brenda introduce them, please, and thank you. You're muted, Brenda.
Okay, unmute. Okay, everybody hear me? Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Angelo, and everyone who has asked the questions and given us the positive feedback in chat. We are now very, very honored to move into our spoken word, hip hop ending of this event. And I am very, very honored to introduce JOC, who was really important to the making of the film Echoes from Loch One. You saw him perform in the film, but also, and you saw him teaching a bit, but he really worked with the youth for them to create their own voices and express themselves in this hip hop piece. Special thanks also to Jamel, who added the beat to it. It was like a really amazing collaboration, but at the core of it was the inspiration of JOC and his experience as a hip hop artist, as an activist, and as a First Nations Mohawk warrior. In the film, he performs the Standing Rock song, Stay Woke. And so welcome, JOC. It's all yours now.
All right. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you. So I just wanted to thank everybody, you know what I mean, especially Brenda and everybody that worked on this. And, you know, I just wanted to start off with the mask. We'll take it off so you guys can actually hear me. And, you know, it was an honor to work on this, especially to be able to do it with the youth and, again, and see how, you know, inspirational those kids were and, you know, how engaged and how much belief they had in what, you know, what they were doing was, it was a beautiful moment. So, again, I go by JOC. I'm a Mohawk from Akwesasne territory, which is straddled in between the United States and Canada. And, yeah, it's a pretty complicated area. We live in between the two customs, which is the United States and the Canadian border. So it's a pretty strange area, and this is one of those places. We've been here since before the United States and Canada was in existence, and these imaginary lines were ended up put through. And so there's always been a front line because we've lived on the front lines here. So there's always been a fight, and, you know, to be brought up around warriors and to always fight for something, especially when your heart's in it and it's right, you always follow that. And that's what led me to Standing Rock. A lot of people have heard about it. Heather spoke about it, and I can't wait to speak to her after this. You know, she's amazing just as well as everybody else on this program tonight. And Standing Rock was a monumental moment in my life as well as many others. And I know a lot of you have heard about it. And so I'm a hip hop artist. I've done it for over 15 years professionally, and I've traveled all over North America, sharing my words and my voice and my stories through hip hop and music and motivational speaking and workshops. And that led me all over. I've helped with music to frontline acts, you know, and I've been involved in things like Idle No More, all the way back to, you know, missing and murder women events all throughout Canada and the United States. And there's a lot of fights out there, and that's what led me to Standing Rock. My heart was calling me to go there. And so I arrived there in November, you know, right around the time everybody was getting hosed down with water in negative 40-degree weather, when people were getting shot by rubber bullets, getting arrested, when they're there praying and singing, and everybody was there fighting for the water, fighting for the one common thing that all humans need on this earth, as well as the earth itself, and all living things throughout, is water. And that's why we all know water is life. I had the opportunity to be there and write this song while I was at camp in negative 40-degree weather after being shot, almost arrested, and this is what came out. I hope you guys enjoy. I will fight you up to the end. I've been around. Sitting back at the camp lights, nighttime with them lamp lights, we're warriors. We been fighting Front line with them flags fly. Put the wire around, taking that down. Purple action in the nighttime. Winter lightning in the background. No gap or no pipeline. This is all time. That's 7 gen. Hate fire and it burns within. You can see it in them eyes that see through the lies. They'll fight corrupt to the end. I've been around, but this is it. Every moment right up to this. Every skill, every little gift. I finally feel what it's like to live, and I'm on it. Looking back when I acted on anger, still about it, but now it's prayer. Hoping no longer it has to go there. Till the death, live with no fear. Trump's here, so don't be scared. Put him in checkmate or disappear. People rise up and the future's here. Here, do it with the realest I know. We're all warriors who live on the road. Even our women are warrior down. Where we're laying our head is our home. This is our path and we're living it now. Closest to freedom we're getting for now. Long as we're breathing, we are not leaving. We're killing the snake and we're doing it now. Asking me how by creating this wave, putting this knowledge down on the page. Tell the real history. I'm not afraid. Your government lies to you every day. This is for change. This is our right. Fight for today. Fight for tonight. Take it to the grave for a future fight. Burn a little sage and light the fight. Our mother earth is crying. We know that it's a time. We fight for all the children. Put our lives upon the line. Warriors, protect the land. We must defend. Warriors, teach the truth to all the youth. Our mother earth is crying. We know that it's a time. We fight for all the children. Put our lives upon the line. Warriors, constant pray every day. Always give thanks for everything. I thank the Creator for every gift. Open up my eyes so I can see the shift. Came at the right time, needed a lift. Drove right to the front line, scared to quit. Cut the line and know to scare the man. You can see it in the eyes that they will win. We get strategic, they can't believe it, and they go back and make a new plan. Have to stay a step ahead, cause they're quick to drag you back with that barbed wire in your face. Rubber bullets to hit your back. Now I'm asking them what's next. Do they want to fight till we're dead? While they fight for that paycheck, we will die for this land. Dapple Dave trying to make us leave. Never listen to a style out there, can't leave. January 21st, still there working, take their shit, and that's literally. Last few months, it was wooden donations. Never seen council unless they were hating. Sabotage at top, infiltrating. Do you want us to stop? Because you're getting paid with about the babies who have no say. Every other single living thing. For far too long, you silenced the songs from here on out. You will hear us sing. Not today will we run away. You might scared, though, once afraid, but the warriors here are here to stay. We protect our mother until the grave. Our mother earth is crying. We know that it's a time. We fight for all the children. Put our lives upon the line. Warriors, protect the land we must defend. Warriors, teach the truth to all the youth. Our mother earth is crying. We know that it's a time. We fight for all the children. Put our lives upon the line. Warriors, constant pray every day. Always give thanks for everything. And that's the thing. We always give thanks for everything. You make sure you appreciate every moment you have, because you never know when your next moment is. So you appreciate every moment on this earth. And when it comes to water, we all need it. So make sure you do everything you can. And sometimes it's the little things. You know, Angelo was saying earlier, he's like, I don't know if I'm on that path or if I've done enough. He's done so much right now that, you know, my heart is popping. You're doing great things. And just by doing you showing up today and speaking a little bit is enough every day. Just little things. You don't have to go all the way out your way. So it's an honor to be able to share this with you guys. And thank you, Brenda, for everything. And anytime you need me, I'm here.
Thank you so much, JOC. That was really, really, really inspiring. And we're going to just keep flowing. So, and we'll leave a little space after just for youth who want to ask questions. But we are really honored to have Shateska here, who is the Earth Guardians Youth Director and Indigenous climate activist, hip hop artist, and a very, very powerful voice from his young age of 5 years old until now on the front lines of a global youth-led environmental movement. He has felt called on to make the change of what it means to be an activist. And he has a really unique talent for connecting people through popular culture and sharing the message of his Indigenous roots to better serve the planet and reimagine the future for his generation. we were honored to hear him at the Mercury Lounge in January, right before the pandemic hit. And it was an amazing audience, all of young activists with their hearts filled so full. And just in the spirit of creative resistance and love, we welcome you, Shateska, to our Water Justice Confluence. Thank you.
Chali, Kwali Yoali, saludos a todos. Good evening. Thank y'all so much for being present, for having me. I'm grateful. My people are the Mexica peoples of Mexico Tenochtitlan. Our nation is on the southern side of the human-made border between the United States and Mexico. And I just want to give a shout out to the organizers, all the youth doing incredible work that have helped, make events like this possible. And to really just the people that are on the ground doing this work every single day. And I think I've been a part of the climate movement and in these spaces for a long time. And at the same time, like none of this would be possible. The momentum that we are seeing of young people taking to the streets at such a global level to demand justice for our communities, for our people, for our climate, for our Black kin, for our Indigenous kin. That's possible because of the folks that are doing that work, on a daily basis. And I think when we talk about water, that is an issue that in a part of our lives that connects us so deeply. So I'm grateful to be here to share a little bit of, just a couple words with y'all. And I wanted to share, a verse of a song of a project I recently released. And we'll start with that. And I'm excited to open it up to and see like what questions or ideas and thoughts anybody has. I know this has been an incredible event, and so excited to open it up to the youth specifically. But started off with the verse, and life, a series of moments. May I borrow one of yours? I promise to use it wisely. And I'm honest more than I'm timely. Searching is where you'll find me. I'm searching for more than answers. I'm searching for more solutions, searching the sky for stars, disguised by all the pollution. I'm searching my mind for truth, buried in my excuses. I'm sick of the lack of balance. I'm sick of not dreaming lucid. I'm sick of feeling so sick inside. The whole world is sick unless you live in a lie. So far from the future, but I feel I've arrived. And I'm up to the night. Your perception of me is set, but I'm different inside. I fly underwater, I swim in the sky. Clandestino, how to live in disguise. When I'm closest to falling is when I'm feeling alive. When I'm furthest from knowing is when I'm falling in love. This is a response to the call of the wild. It's been calling for a while now. Humans foolish to think we'd ever conquer the wild. Rivers outrun the roads by the furthest of miles. I feel every breath like it's lasted a lifetime. Cities rise and fall through the ages. Everything fade, everything dust, everything changes. History is so much more than the scripture that's spilled on the page. The stories in the eyes of the children are ancient. We wouldn't be human if living was painless. I believe it took more than evolution to make us, the death of the sacred. I'm here now like I've always been, never alone. The creator wrote these stories in the sky so someone could follow it home. Thank y'all. Again, I just want to shout out the folks for putting on this event and for everybody who, help hold space to make this happen. Everybody showing up, all the youth on the line too. I know this stuff can be difficult to gather in the same way via these digital platforms, but we out here, and still sharing the stories and the message. So grateful to be a part of that. But I think we have some time to open it up, kind of an open type of dialogue. I know that there's been a lot of great stuff happening throughout the event, and pass it over to the youth, particularly who want to share or ask questions or put forth ideas like how the vibe is. So I encourage y'all to speak up and let me know what y'all are feeling. And then also questions for the work that I've been involved in, or Earth Guardians, or the music, kind of at any level. Pass it back over to y'all. And if one of the facilitators wanna open it up in more of a specific way, like please feel free. Go ahead.
Ooh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was really beautiful. I think we just had a question drop in our chat box about what the Earth Guardians goals has been this past year. And if you could
Yeah.
speak to that, maybe speak to how things have shifted through COVID times and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. My mom started this organization called Earth Guardians in the 90s. As originally it was an accredited high school. Actually, it was a high school. It's an educational community that brought together a bunch of kids on the island of Maui, Hawaii, to learn, to teach, to be involved in environmental work. More importantly, the vision was to create a platform and a space for young leaders to have their voices shared and heard through a variety of different platforms, right? And as we have seen time and time again, like the creative arts are just as relevant of a contribution to movement spaces as organizing, or as, you know, speaking in front of an audience, or as doing the behind the scenes work. And so, yeah, Earth Guardians began way back then. And this year, you know, it's been around now for like, yeah, almost 30 years. And it's actually interesting, I actually officially gave up the title of youth director this year. And it was good. It felt like really, really good to let go of that. And I really grew up in the movement and doing the work, and I'm still very close. I'm still on the board of Earth Guardians. But specifically this year, a lot of our work shifted towards voter registration, that kind of campaigns. People were, you know, working on that at a lot of different levels. The work that I'm, for the most part, I'm involved in at Earth Guardians is through our Indigenous Youth Leadership Initiative. And that work really began last year when myself and a handful of other youth, you know, really began asking the question of like, what is the space that we need to create within the climate movement, within these conversations, to explicitly, specifically like funnel resources and build a platform for Indigenous young leaders. And so we had an Indigenous youth leadership training on the land. There were 30 young Native leaders from all over the country, from all over North America, that came through and gathered on the land. And we brought teachers and trainers and storytellers, and, you know, prayed together and learned together. And like, it was an incredible, very powerful experience, moment in time on the land. So this year we continued through a 5-week Zoom course training, bringing on a lot of incredible teachers and storytellers, and yeah, so that's what I was involved in. A lot of like just internal work, honestly. Like I think another question popped up in the chat. It's like, what work are you involved in? And I've been doing, and I've spent so much of my life like traveling around and speaking about the climate and like raising awareness around these issues, and talking about Earth Guardians and representing the organization. That this year was like so healthy for me to just like read a lot, you know, and just like go inward and create a lot of music, and like have the opportunity to like really reflect and understand like what is the part that we are playing in these movements, and what is this moment really calling on us to do, and how are we really being called to show up. Because I think we can get swept up and caught up in the hype, and then just like our patterns, and just the ways in which we know how to engage and how to play our part and how to use our voice. So it's like how do we just be like as intentional as possible. And I think that makes us more effective leaders and organizers and artists. So it's been a good year of like, because usually I'm traveling like all the time, you know. So it was good to kind of go inward for a second. Let's see, what is the reach of Earth Guardians? Earth Guardians is global. Earth Guardians has crews, which is like independent hubs, and I think 50 countries. So they're all over the world. Like some of our strongest crews are in Togo and in Ghana and in Africa. My boy Mensah Sidze doing incredible educational work out there, you know, mass reforestation projects. My cousin Teotekpat doing a lot of great work in Mexico City. But yeah, we have Earth Guardian crews all over the world, and that work continues to deepen. Like we're trying to kind of deepen those partnerships and those connections with all of these inspired young leaders we have all over the place. Okay, Masha, what's good, Masha? How's it going? Thanks for helping me be introduced to this community, actually. And the reason that I'm honestly on this call right now is through meeting you and your family and learning about y'all's work. But the question from Masha is, what would it take to start an Earth Guardian crew with Water Justice Lab at the sanctuary? Yeah, I mean, I think that's one cool thing about Earth Guardians. Our work is very broad, you know, and so there are strengths and weaknesses with being an organization that focuses, that allows our youth who are engaged to essentially dictate the ways in which they want to be involved with our organizing work. And it makes it really easy for us to build partnerships with existing organizations. So in the instance of Water Justice Lab wanting to partner up with Earth Guardians to kind of collaborate on resources, on tools, on you know, whether it's like tapping into the community or other Earth Guardian crews that we have in that area, like it's very fluid, you know, and we definitely have space and are excited to continue to build with other folks that are already doing great work. And that's the thing, it's like, you know, there's so many ways to be involved right now. It's just important to see, yeah, where to not stretch yourself too thin. So integrating Earth Guardians into the work that has already been done is awesome. I think you could just reach out to the folks at Earth Guardians. Pretty sure you and the fam have the contact for either Tamara and Kelly. But through the Earth Guardians website, for like any other youth who are interested in seeing like, where are the Earth Guardian crews? How can we get involved? How does my work apply to these youth crews? You know, you can like tap in via the website, which is earthguardians.org. There you go. Cool. I hope that was helpful. Any other questions from the fam? From any of the folks on the taps and on the call?
I don't think I caught any other questions, but I think one of my questions would be that if our youth on the call don't have, oh, and it seems that Sage Jim has a question, so we'll move on to that in a moment. But if the youth don't have, I don't know, the resources or what have you to create their own chapter of Earth Guardians, like what would you tell the youth? How would you suggest that they inspire this environmental movement within their own communities, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think environmental work so oftentimes gets placed in with a specific connotation in a specific box, when in reality, like whether we live in an urban environment or in the forest or by the ocean, like we are constantly engaging with the world around us, whether that's just community work or, you know, and I think yeah, for us it's important to broaden our understanding of I think climate and the climate crisis and climate justice allows us to have deeper conversations about the things that we oftentimes simplify, you know, through the way that the climate conversation and the environmental conversation is portrayed in media and even by big environmental organizations. But it really, like, your community and the way that you interact with your family and those around you, like those are issues that are pertinent and like important and relevant to these conversations around like the environment, right? Because it's so much bigger than just regulations on fossil fuel extraction and exploitation and alternative energy sources. It's like, how do we actually build thriving communities? You know, and so I think there's a lot of conversation this year that has come up around police abolition and really looking at police violence and white supremacy and how those issues are like deeply rooted in our culture. If you look at the climate crisis, like the same extractive industry that profits off of destroying indigenous land and poisoning indigenous peoples and marginalized communities that have their homes built right next to coal-fired power plants, or who have fracking wells right next to their homes, like in Colorado, where I'm from, like those same industries, that same, you know, way that system is set up is very parallel to the exploitation and the commodification and the violence towards our Black kin and our Black relatives, and those issues of policing and how we invest our money so heavily in the police state, you know, I think is really reflective of what our environments look like, you know, and so I think regardless of who you are, where you're from, what your community looks like, you know, I think some good ways to start in getting involved in this conversation, in this work, in this movement, is to like start to see how your community interacts, how you interact with your community, and how your community is interacting with the world. And I just like encourage folks to like read and to like inform themselves. There's a lot of resources everywhere, whether it's environmental documentaries, podcasts, like audio books, like whatever it is, like meme pages that be having hella like TikTok accounts to be talking about capitalism and like all, like whatever it is, like whatever interests you, like there are ways in which you can absorb through those platforms. Earth Guardians is one space that is like trying to help build bridges and connect youth to that. And I know that a lot of great work is being done, within y'all's communities as well. So it can begin really small, like you don't have to go out and change the world or start a new organization. Like we are all parts of this much greater struggle, towards building a more like beautiful, connected, liberated future. And it's going to take a lot of, all of us like playing our parts, even in small ways. And yeah, so information. And also I would really say like building relationships with folks, like with other people that believe in some of the same things or have the similar questions and curiosities as you. And we don't always have that at school. We don't always have that within our families. Like oftentimes we disagree a lot with our families, whether it's their politics or how they view certain things. And especially sometimes with our elders too, that, there are barriers intergenerationally like that. So like try to reach out and build those friendships with other folks in your community. Social media has made it so easy to connect with other people that, belong in these same communities or these same ideas, believe in these same ideas. But it's really hard to do this stuff alone. Like this event didn't happen, this work doesn't get done because people go off and try to do it by themselves. Like it gets done because people want to build together to broaden our understanding of what building a future together looks like. See another question. It says, what can youth and environmental organizers do to expand this critical conversation between climate change and environmental racism? For sure. There's a lot that can be done. And I think one thing that definitely should be done is like it's really valuable for organizers in the environmental and the climate space to just like understand the history of other movements and the current, like the contemporary history of other movements. Like we're seeing the largest, organizing force in the history of this country being around the protection and defense of Black lives. And like that has like really happened this year during a pandemic. Like we're seeing some of the greatest social movements in our history. And things are, a lot of uphill battles like are ahead of us, but at the same time, a lot of progress is being made and a lot of important conversations are like being brought to the surface and to the forefront of like our collective consciousness. So I think in understanding, the ways in which your organizing and your work intersects with the communities around you, specifically I think Black and Indigenous communities. And I think, for example, like whose land are you on? That's like the easiest first step that any of us can take. Whose land are you occupying right now? And there's an app that anybody can download on basically I think any kind of phone called Native Land. And it shows you like whose traditional territories and has links and resources to connect with those folks. And really understanding how these struggles of water, through a very environmentalist lens, oftentimes excludes Indigenous voices and Indigenous water protectors and Indigenous people who don't, view these resources with a sense of ownership, in a lot of cases, who are left out and excluded and pushed away from having access to this sacred, element. Or, in Black communities, like whether it's Flint, Michigan, or, Newark, that are experiencing massive amounts of inequity and lack of access to clean drinking water. And that just is a part of life for a lot of, Black and Brown and Indigenous communities, impoverished communities. And you start to realize and see that like these conversations are so connected, and you can't really effectively have a holistic conversation about environmental issues unless you're really understanding like the undercurrent of like racial injustice and like exploitation of the working class, of people in this country. So I think it comes with conversations, it comes with reaching out to other organizations, it comes with learning whose land you're on and how your environmental issues that you're talking about, who is already doing that work and organizing and not getting attention for it. Like a lot of Indigenous peoples and Indigenous communities who've been doing the work for generations, who've been getting removed off their land for generations, displaced, had their water poisoned. Like, so I think it's a lot of work, and it's like a lot of internal like reflection, and like, you have to constantly be asking yourself, like, am I doing this in the best way? And it's okay, because it's not about like expecting yourself to perfectly off the bat be doing it, but like, how can we always strive to do better work in a more, I don't know, inclusive is such a weird word, and just a way that is more conscientious of our relatives and of those around us, and of the land that we stand upon, and the other movements whose shoulders we stand upon to do our work. And that's all important. So I think growing your awareness around that is really important. Read books written by Black and Indigenous authors, listen to podcasts, and read news that is, told from an Indigenous and a Black and a frontlines perspective, from a working class perspective. And I think that can help broaden your understanding. And it's not overnight. It's like, this work is life work, especially for non-Black folks and non-Indigenous folks. And so, yeah, it's a beautiful journey though, to be in greater relation and in better solidarity with our kin. Absolutely.
Hey, brother, it's good to see you here. I just wanted to, something was brought up earlier, and I know that you've been doing this for a very long time, and I think that you have some pretty good insight on this, but we were talking about like activism, and then also the trauma that comes along with it. And I know you've been doing this since you were 5, and I know that we had talked, I think we were down in DC, and you were going through some really hard times at that point. What would you talk to the youth about, how you deal? And I know you answered some of this in what you've been talking about with community building and all of this, but what would you tell the youth on how to deal with the trauma that comes along with this work?
For sure. Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think, yeah, it's different for everyone in how you experience organizing and the ways in which you experience organizing. And I think some of the hardest wake-up calls for me and the biggest moments of growth have been when I like look back on how I've been doing things and how I've been interacting, whether it's with the public or with my own image, and being like, I'm not doing this right. Or like, I actually grew up learning a lot of things about how I saw the world and the limitations that through my environment were placed on my perception of things, and like really unhappy with how I've operated and how I've moved and how I feel like I've let a lot of people down. And I'm really hard on myself too, and I'm definitely a perfectionist, but at the same time, it's like this is tough. There's a lot of pressure from a lot of directions, and just the work is heavy in itself, that we are existing at a moment in time where our existence as human beings on this planet is up for debate, and whether or not we prioritize doing everything in our power to preserve and protect our land, our communities, our water, that's like up for debate, and oftentimes feel like it's so far out of reach and out of our hands. So regardless of what your experiences or how you're getting involved or what ways and you're tapping the movement, there's challenges along the way. And I would say that it's so important, yes, to build community and just to like, do as much as you can, just from like really check in with yourself as you do this work and be like, are you really doing this, for the right reasons? And have you taken time to like ask those questions and identify like what you're doing this for? And maybe and the answers can be simple, and our motivations change, and like we adapt and grow and learn new things, and but ultimately I think just to being really grounded in your purpose, and finding that is also really hard too. So like, don't put too much pressure on yourself in that way. But I'd say like the most help that I've had is when I say these things, is like, am I really engaging in this work in a way that is meaningful and feels like I'm doing my work as being who I am and doing what I love and expressing myself in the way that I know that I'm here to do. Like, am I doing that? And it's not always the case, and sometimes you just gotta like do hard stuff that isn't in alignment with like what feels really great. And at the same time, yeah, being true to yourself, and like that sounds corny, it really does, like, but I've just like learned that, you have to like ask yourself and just be in touch with that. And like I've just like not done that for such a long time in a lot of ways. So I encourage you to like have people in your life that would check you and be like, yo, what are you doing right now? Like why are you doing this? Why are you showing up? Like checking your ego, checking your pride, checking your, you know, the way in which you navigate and relate with other folks. And how so there's a lot to it, but like I think having good anchors in your life that help hold you to that, where you can see your vision or you can see how you do this work, and other people who also see who you are, and it can help like steer you back on path. Maybe you're like, you know, get you back in a good place with it. And like we all have different practices to help like staying sane. You know, for me, like writing music and performing my art, and like this time of separation has been really difficult. I've been living in a city for the last 9 months that isn't my home, that I don't really know, and away from my creative community, away from my ceremonial community. You know, like that's all really difficult. So we all find different ways to try to overcome that. So writing new music's been really healing. And I think, yeah, like when you talk about trauma, like this work is as much about healing ourselves and our relationship to our communities and to ourselves as it is about healing the world. And I think those conversations go hand in hand. And when we look deeper at what we're experiencing and what the world is experiencing, is like, yeah, it's rooted in a lot of trauma that oftentimes doesn't really belong to us, you know, and it's actually deeper than just a generation. Anyways, there's a lot I can say about that, but those are some of my first thoughts. I think we got time for maybe like one more question. Cool. Just curious. Okay, Robert. What's up, Robert? Just curious about the story of how your mom inspired and encouraged you. Yeah, mom is a G. She's like just her story and her life and how she has been through so much, and just continued to persevere, to do and to really dedicate her life to the work for the youth. You know, like Earth Guardians, and again, like I'm in a lot of positions where my relationship with my mom and my relationship with the organization has changed. Sometimes in good ways, sometimes in not great ways. And just really seeing my mom like ride for the youth her whole life, really, like, and just be so dedicated to it, and work most of her life without getting paid for her work, which like you shouldn't do, you know, like you should always be getting compensated for your time. But like there was a time where like that wasn't a standard that a lot of people were talking about in the nonprofit space, you know, and people like her like just saw the vision and would keep doing it no matter what. And so yeah, I mean, I think she is just such a warrior. When I think about what that means, you know, where I've seen that in my community, she is totally a reflection of that. My mother is, and I'm really lucky, I feel, to have such a strong mom, and like that's why I am who I am. And at the same time, I think I've gotten to a really good place where we're learning from each other. You know, like I feel like I have just as much to teach her as I leave the nest. Like this is my first year of life, not like really living at home, and I travel all the time, so I always kind of come and go, but like this is my first year of life, like having left the nest. And like so it's a new relationship for us. But anyways, mom, like, yeah, our mothers and mother figures, you know, folks in our life that sometimes play both roles, both parental roles, like however it is, you know, that's such a sacred like connection. And when we talk about this work for the earth, you know, those are relationships that are important to think about and honor. And so I'm just really lucky and grateful to have had that. Yeah, thank you all for your time, for these wonderful questions. And I wish you all like the best with all this, with building this community, with continuing to do your part. And artists, storytellers, songwriters, performers, folks that are just really good at organizing stuff on Google Docs, like y'all all are doing it, like, and have your part to play for real. And that's the only way we're gonna get through this. So send my love to each and every one of you. And Clase Kamati. Thank you for being present, for having me.
Thank you so much. Yes. Wait, can we all unmute and clap? Is that weird? Get a real round of applause. Yes, 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 yes. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. X, it was really good to hear your words. And also, I just want to add, like, I know that we're all like asking some pretty deep insight of like from you, like but we also hear you, see you, and understand that you are taking on such a big role in this movement, and that we appreciate everything that you are doing and are here in support of you. So thank you for everything. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being here. What a really beautiful way to close out the evening. And yeah, I encourage everyone to come back tomorrow, not to like shift it to, but I want to be like respectful of everyone's time. I know we're all tired, and yeah, we'll pick this conversation up tomorrow, dive deeper, and yes, thank you.